So now we've got a little stretch of road where I don't have to worry about traffic so much. I actually want to take a second, or maybe a few minutes, and just kind of go into a little bit more about myself. And so what we're gonna look at right now is, I guess, something you would actually consider a testimony. Anyway, so mostly what I want to hit is my life as a Christian. So my life as a Christian, which maybe that's controversial, maybe you do or don't believe in God, maybe you're struggling with something, maybe you're doubting something, I don't know. But I want to take just a few minutes to just kind of talk about what's gone on in my life. So with that, I grew up in a Christian family. Both my parents are saved and godly individuals, and so I grew up in that. Sure, went to church pretty much all the time. Sometimes it was chapels on base because I grew up in the military, but we were usually involved in a church somewhere, somehow. But around the age of 7, actually I was 7, began to ask some questions, and really, I guess, began to feel this kind of weight on me. And so did some talking with my folks, and my dad actually led me in praying to accept Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior. And I do remember very distinctly at that moment that there was just this weight that was lifted. Something that even at 7 years old I recognized there was something that I was carrying that there's no way I could carry it. And so move forward from 7, I think I was, 9, 10, something like that. Wound up being baptized, which the baptizing doesn't do anything for salvation. That doesn't really secure anything, but what it does do is it shows those around me and those people that are there that I have chosen to put Christ first in my life, that I have making a change. And so anyway, it's just a public profession is really all it is, that signifies or symbolizes my if you'll hear it a lot sometimes in churches, buried with Christ and risen to a new life, and that's what it symbolizes. It symbolizes the death of myself, and then the new life I have in Christ. So, but like I said, the baptism doesn't do anything. It's just water, and in my case it was a few inches of absolutely freezing cold water in a small country church in Kentucky. So, like I said, the baptism itself, that doesn't save, doesn't do anything. It's just a symbolism. And so, anyway, so move forward from there. I'm about 13, 14 years old, and family, we had moved to Oklahoma, and so we're in a small church, and I'd been kind of helping out doing some things and got involved helping with, I guess, student ministry, if you will, just kind of working with kids. Seemed to always be where I naturally gravitated to. And so I was helping out at the camp and doing some stuff, and just through a series of events, really became impressed that, you know, my life had something to do with ministry in some form or capacity. What that would be, at the time I was thinking it had to be with, you know, it was dealing with youth or kids or something like that, but realistically it was just that I knew that I wanted to surrender my life over to God and say, you know, basically kind of the Isaiah 6 illustration with, you know, here am I, send me. You know, it's making myself available to go and do whatever it is that I'm supposed to. So that all happens at about 13, 14 years old. Didn't talk to anybody about it. It was just something that was really felt called to that. And so move forward, graduate high school, and started college. By this point we live in Texas, and I'm going to school down in going to a community college, Palo Alto Community College out in San Antonio, and just had a really interesting experience because I never really had friends. You know, we got plugged into a bunch of different churches, and you know, been to different places and whatnot, but never really had a solid, I guess, church home or something like that. But formed a really good community of friends while I was at Palo Alto, and from there I actually made a connection with a few individuals and wound up working at a camp over an Easter weekend I think it was 2007. And that summer, the summer of 2007, decided to actually go work at a place called Alto Frio. It's a little camp out in the middle of nowhere, Texas, and went through a lot of stuff there, a lot of growth, a few struggles, and then from there I went into my junior year of college. And in my junior year of college, my life took a turn, a bit of a spiral. And it wasn't, you know, and preface, like, and that's why I'm leading up here, you know, I mean, born into a Christian family, saved when I was 7, surrendered to some type of ministry at 13, 14, been involved in church and working with people and doing stuff, and so 2007, summer of 2007 was an absolute high point. Was kind of a peak, if you will. And so moving from there, I go into college, and things are okay. Things aren't bad right away. And then I make some decisions, some not very intelligent decisions. I get involved in some things that I shouldn't have been doing, and maybe later in another video we'll go into some of that. So I get into a relationship that kind of wasn't healthy for myself, and it wasn't healthy for the other individual. And I reach a point where even as a Christian, you know, I'm sitting in a classroom in a building, and my job is to study and learn about God and how to lead and do all these different things. And I am more or less dying. I'm drowning the whole time for 2 years, basically. And I don't know. It was dark. You know, basically, I just whatever I could do to feel. I was just numb to the spirit, to the world around me. I was just numb, and so I graduated, and I think it was 2010 I graduated, or 2009. I don't remember now. Anyway, so I graduate, and that fall, my life kind of flipped back over, and through some dramatic circumstances, but my life did kind of turn back around, and began to realize that, you know, I've done all these things, I've hurt all these people, and yet, you know, I was in the hands of a God who was far bigger and bolder and greater, and loved me more than I could have ever asked for. And it was a bit of a wrestling match, accepting that forgiveness, you know, even though I know that God had been there, and it was really me that had walked away, that had become cold. And through that, I mean, I learned a lot of stuff. But so after graduating and things kind of beginning to turn around, you know, I'm thinking there's no way that I can be involved in the church. There's no way that God can use me. There's nothing good in me. And of course, 2012, I get married to my best friend, which God has greatly used to stimulate and challenge me in many areas. And then a couple years ago, we got involved in a church, which was the first church that I had really felt like I had a home. And in the process of that, began to realize that, you know, I really needed to surround myself with other guys, other men who could lead me, who could teach me, who could really pour into my life and minister to me. And I knew that was something that God was doing. I knew that He was sort of stirring that part of me. And so we get involved in the church, we get plugged in, and now it's opening up. Now it's becoming vulnerable. Now it's, you know, the hard part of taking that next step and letting God work and massage the rough edges and reshape things. So there's a lot of things that have happened. Some by my own hand, some are not. I've made some really unwise and costly decisions, and yet I believe in and I serve a God who takes all my junk and all my brokenness and turns it around and uses it, redeems it. And it's just incredible. So I don't know where you're at. I don't know what your life looks like, relationships you're in, what your work looks like, what school's like. There's a number of things, but I don't know these things. But I know that God does, and I know that He cares, and I know that He desires that relationship with you. And so it's just one of those things that I feel like is absolutely vital to living. This isn't some fairy tale. This isn't some crazy kooky made up story. This isn't make-believe. Like, I've lived this stuff. I've walked it. So take it as it is. I mean, this is a small glimpse, and maybe we'll get into more of it later days in other videos, but that's just a small glimpse of what my life as a Christian has been, and what God has done in my life. And I believe that He can do stuff that we deem is impossible. And so my hope and prayer as I kind of wind out this video is that you would have that relationship too. So I encourage you, find somebody who's a believer, find a church, a pastor, somebody. There's ministry websites, and I wish I could think of some off the top of my head at the moment. But grab a Bible. I mean, even if you've never read through one, grab a Bible, just start reading. I don't promise the answers to every pain and frustration, but I can promise that you will have a peace that you've never known, and that there is a hope and a future, and you can have that and be secure. You can know that you don't have to control the outcome, that it's not up to you to be perfect. You can let that weight go. So, like I said, I'll go into more of this in another video, but I just want to encourage you, if you see this, just to give it some thought, and just see what God can do. Just take that small step. This isn't a big one. Just take that small step and just see what God can do. So, anyway, with that, I'm signing off, and you all have a good one. Be blessed, and we'll get you on the next video.